The city of Charlottesville, Virginia is well known for its local food scene. Located in the heart of the Virginia Piedmont, Charlottesville has had a long history of agricultural production, a legacy that lives on today in the form of locally sourced restaurants, breweries, markets, and much more. Agriculture within the city itself is less ubiquitous, as the 20th century saw cities across the United States grow more and more distanced from their surrounding countrysides. Today, however, urban agriculture is growing. This trend is evident in the blossoming of community and schoolyard gardens across the city, but it also occurs on the individual scale. In Meadow Creek and Azalea Parks, city residents can rent small plots of land on which to maintain a garden. For many recent immigrants, these plots help preserve one's cultural heritage and may also offset household food costs. For other residents, it's simply an enjoyable pastime, a productive use of the weekend hours. Laura Covert, an avid gardener in the Woolen Mills neighborhood, says that her own motivations for backyard agriculture are varied. She describes how her garden reminds her of home as she grew up with gardening parents. In her own neighborhood, Laura's garden has become a fixture of the local community. People love to come down and see the garden, she says. I sell the eggs to my neighbors, and I have a neighbor who helps me milk the goats. It very much, for me, feels like a real piece of the community to have this little farmlet. She goes on to describe a micro CSA that she has begun this year with two friends, who will help support the garden financially in exchange for weekly harvests. At Seaville Foodscapes, a worker-owned edible landscaping cooperative, the emphasis is on reintegrating food production into neighborhoods, though individual clients' motivations may vary, from those who see backyard production as an economic investment to those who simply love to garden. Sarah Frazier, one of Seaville Foodscapes' worker owners, describes Charlottesville's local food scene as young but maturing. She points to relationships that are just forming, conversations that are just beginning, all of which revolve around how to make local food production more accessible for all of Charlottesville's residents. These things are just starting to happen, she says. These questions of access for whom, not just for folks with a lot of discretionary income, but for folks of all income levels. Sarah describes the partnership between the local food hub and the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, for example, or the work that Bel Air Farm does with immigrant farmers through the International Rescue Committee's New Roots program. Another pioneering organization is Casa Alma, a hospitality house community for low-income families that need transitional housing. Located on 3 adjacent lots bordering Reeves Park in southeast Charlottesville, Casa Alma has an extensive backyard garden and laid a neighborhood-wide effort to have garden plots available for rent in the park, an effort that met with success just this January. Laura Brown, director of Casa Alma, says that in her community, it's never just about the food. Potluck suppers, neighborhood workshops, and open houses all help to explore the question of what it means to live in right relationship with the land, she says. Both Laura and Sarah praise Charlottesville's culture of local foods, but would like to see the emphasis shift away from a purely distance-based definition. Just because food is produced locally doesn't mean it's necessarily produced sustainably or justly, Laura says. Sarah agrees, saying that local food is more than just a capitalistic exchange of goods and money. It's also about the relationships formed, the connections forged, the experiences shared. Ultimately, it's about community, cultivating a shared identity, and tapping into a root system that is as much about the people as it is about the plants. Perhaps it's no wonder that so many of our strongest metaphors of growth, of blossoming, of deep roots and lofty branches all come from the garden.